If there was like a late
Yeah.
night TV record set advertisement of the 90s music still around
Yep.
today, Keep It Separated would probably make that list. I think this might have been the hardest list yet for me to put together. Not that I've got a giant punk collection, but I've got enough that only being able to pick 5 was exceptionally difficult.
I too had that problem because there's like 3 bands I wanted to include that I didn't include because somebody had to go. And it's like, how do you make that choice? And I'm like, I'm just gonna make the list and I'm gonna go for it.
I also very much struggled, and part of it was either some of my favorite bands I may not have their favorite record, or it's such a common choice, like some of the things I may have recently mentioned, where you just can't. I couldn't include it because there was so many other obscure things I wanted to throw in there, right?
And that's kind of what I thought. There was a couple bands I was going to include, and I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure one of you two are going to have that band on the list already, so I'm not going to include them. And turns out one of them was a yes, you did, and it was the same album I was going to do too. So
there's also a thing called post-punk, and that made it a little difficult as well, because what the heck is post-punk exactly compared to punk gets a little blurry. Now, I went fairly traditional with a lot of my picks, so I don't think there's going to be too much arguments on this one. But you could, because we have a lot of punk even up to today that is mostly punk, but not punk with a capital P. And so I mostly tried to stick with fairly traditional capital P punk for my list.
See, I've been in the old punk and hardcore scene forever, and the majority of records I own fall into one of those two categories, right? So it got to this point where I was digging up 7 inches of bands that 50 people have heard of, right? And they might be some of my favorite albums, but I didn't include them just because simply nobody would be able to find them. Nobody would know what they are. And you probably can't even find them on YouTube, right? So like they're just gone to the ether from the early 80s and mid 80s and late 80s, and little 7 inches. And there's just so much to choose from for me on that one. I had to go with a much different vibe, as we will soon see.
I'm going to kick off our top 5 list. It'll go me, Drac, and then you, Standpoint, with about as classic a punk record as it'll get. That would be a greatest hits collection of their smaller EPs by DOA, Bloodied But Unbowed. This is also the only Mexican pressing in my collection, although it's in English. But it includes songs that really just get to the core of what is punk, by the name of, like, I Don't Give a Shit, World War III, Fucked Up Ronnie, and my clip here for today, Fuck You.
That's punk.
That's very good. Good choice.
That definitely.
I've been fortunate enough to
tin.
see them before, so.
Oh, really?
They put out that ethos, yes.
My number 5 is going very well with a conversation we had earlier with the Descendants. I think it was 87, Milo left, or they kind of went on hiatus because Milo, the lead singer of the Descendants, decided he wanted to go back to school to get his biochemistry degree. So everybody else in the band said, well, we're not going to quit. we want to continue, but they didn't want to really call themselves the Descendants. So they called themselves All. This is everybody that was left other than Milo. And All did, I think, 4 or 5 albums. And then the Descendants basically got together. But yeah, this is their album called Pummel.
Long distance last goodbye. Can't give it one last try. It's all over. We didn't even cry. All I know is the world came between us and the love got left behind. No newsflash, funeral, half-mast flag of the day that our love died. I tell you face to face, if I could look you in the eye. So I just called to say goodbye.
Interscope gave them this contract and gave them a big advance, and they built themselves a little home recording studio. And then Interscope booted them after this album. They're like, "That's cool. We got a whole recording studio out of it." And then they put out like 4 or 5 more albums. So that's a fun little story with All. But yeah, I wasn't sure if you guys heard.
Yeah,
Oh,
me too.
okay,
Me too. Wait, it's funny.
I
This whole room, we're all surprised Descendants and All fans. What can I say? So.
Yeah, I figured if anybody knew them, you two probably did, just because of the Descendants connection.
Dave Smalley did vocals for them too, and Dave Smalley was in like Dag Nasty and a few other bands too. So they kind of had a bit of an all-star vocal assistance with All. Like all-star punk scene vocal assistants. There are those who would argue that Dave Smalley for All is the best All, if one were in that argumentative mood.
Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, I love this album though. This is like my favorite album by them. I love this album so much.
Some of the greatest thing about it is really the bass lines. If you're a bass player, you need to listen to All, because it is the epitome of being a bass lead while carrying the rhythm. Yeah. And he doesn't play what the guitar plays at all, ever, practically, right? And Descendants is somewhat like that too, but like, one of my I actually love Mass Nerder is my favorite All album. So
yeah, that's really good too. Yeah.
And for those who don't know who All and the Descendants are, really early pioneers. I don't know if they're the first to do it exactly, but of kind of melodic pop influenced punk. So it was really punk that still had an abrasive tone and everything, but really had a melody, and it was all about catchy melodies and things like that as much as anything, and pretty good technical ability as well.
Yeah, so for my number 5, I'm going to go back into, I believe this is 1981, and that would be the very original Bad Brains recording. It came out, let's see. This is a reissue, so I'm not exactly sure on it, but yeah, it looks like it came out in 1981. This one could argue that this helped create the scene that it is today. This was back in DC, right? We had Minor Threat, we had a few others, and then Bad Brains started showing up at CBGBs, and just, you can catch videos on YouTube of just the insanity that was their shows at CBGBs, right? But I mean, this one starts off with Sailin' On. And if you want to hear something that just rips your face off, Sailin' On is it.
When I'm moving on,
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great album. My number 4, I need to do a minor bit of censorship here because of content on it, is Jawbreaker Bivouac, which is also sort of melodic punk, not particularly poppy though, kind of the opposite of that in some ways. Jawbreaker was a very kind of independent-minded sort of band, and this album just really, although it shares some commonality with a lot of other punk bands of the time, really doesn't exactly sound like anything else, and I think that that's what I like best.
Jawbreaker's a great band. I was also fortunate enough to see them play about 2 years ago. They did a tour in Minnesota, and one could argue they kind of fall into the hardcore, post-hardcore a little bit too.
Yeah,
but,
they're on the edge of not really being punk, but they certainly have enough stuff that counts as punk that I'm including it in this list.
Number 4 for me is a band called Flogging Molly. Ooh. This is their Drunken Lullabies album. They're an Irish punk band, actually. They have another album called Swagger that's really good too, but I really like Drunken Lullabies, and it's speaking gatefold. Got a gatefold on this one too.
Yeah.
But so yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna go on an interesting one here, because when you think of punk rock, of course you think of the Replacements, right? Obviously Replacements may have changed their sound in the mid to late 80s. However, this album, which I believe also came out in 1981, this is the Replacements. Sorry, Ma, forgot to take out the trash, right? This defined a scene of punk, right? This kind of along with Descendants and Husker Du and some of those guys, they all these guys were coming out of Minnesota with Husker Du, right? And they were just what we defined in a local scene for punk.
Stay right there, go no further. Don't get a doctor, don't get my mother. Still try to walk, got on the side. Turn around, we're taking the ride. So take another pill from your purse. Take a little ride in our hearse. We're taking a ride. We're taking a ride. We're taking a ride. Take me. Going real fast, hanging out the window. Chicken in the backseat, after bottle. Oh, the light was green and so alive. The radio blasting, turn that shit off.
this is punk. Listen to it. You will find that it is punk. It's got such great songs on it called like Kick Your Door Down, I Bought a Headache, I Hate Music, Johnny's Gonna Die, More Cigarettes, A Throw to Husker Du, Something to Do, Shut Up, things like that, right? So this is a great little punk album. And it's obviously a little on the lighter side, but not really. This one does not have folk guitars. It does not have a lot of singing. It's got a lot of drunken, sloppy playing and screaming and yelling. And I highly recommend you check this one out.
We're moving on to number 3 here, and I'm bringing out another one of the big classics, that being the Dead Kennedys. Arguably one of my favorite punk bands, well, number 3, but for technicality, they're right up there. I love the music of the Dead Kennedys as much as I like kind of the attitude and the lyrics. I think sometimes Jello Biafra can actually be a bit of a blowhard, but I also really like him, and he's got such a unique delivery style that the Dead Kennedys sound like no one else.
We're sorry. We hate to interrupt, but it's against the law to jump off this bridge. You'll just have to kill yourself somewhere else. A tourist might see you and we wouldn't want that. I'm just doing my job, you know, so say uncle and we'll take you to the mental health zoo. Force feed you mind-melting chemicals till even the outside world looks great. High-tech science research labs, it costs too much to bury all the dead. The mutilated, disease-injected, surplus rats who can't be used anymore, so they're dumped. With no minister present in a spiraling corkscrew disposal unit, drowned in the stew and flushed away on chain. We don't need you anymore. We don't need you anymore. Simple good food. We make a good meal. But how does it feel to shit out our ass and throw in the coal like a piece of trash?
And their albums really have some biting satire that's pretty intelligent and all over the place. This one, you could argue maybe for a top album that there could be other picks though than Frankenchrist here, but I like Frankenchrist because Soup is Good Food is my favorite Dead Kennedys song.
That is the album that I cut off of my list because I figured one of you would have that on the list. So I'm like, okay, I'm good. Number 3 for me is Bad Religion. And I went with the Stranger Than Fiction. This is my favorite Bad Religion album. It has like 21st Century Digital Boy, Incomplete, A Walk.
Such a great band.
It is. I love Bad Religion so much. I actually saw them when I saw back in 90, I think it was 94, when Pearl Jam was doing their anti-Ticketmaster tour, and they wouldn't play anywhere that, Ticketmaster sold tickets and they sold the tickets themselves. They had Bad Religion open them up for them, so I got to see Bad Religion on that. They blew me away. And then it's on a clear, which I'm not a really big fan of clear vinyl, but that I thought they did pretty good with that clear vinyl on that one. So yeah.
Bad Religion's interesting because they're one band that they didn't stray far from their original sound throughout their careers. Right?
No.
And they're still around, of course, but they really do kind of have that same sound. My favorite one's Generator, and I was fortunate enough to see them on the Generator tour. And yeah, I mean, how could you go wrong with Bad Religion? Just consistently punk rock AF.
Oh yeah,
right? So,
100%.
Well, speaking of punk rock AF, I had to throw this one out there. I'm going to show both sides. I'm going to show the side that's allowed, and that would be MDC, which, if anybody knows what that means, there is a lot of arguments about what it stands for, but they make it pretty clear on the album cover that was not allowed, and that would be Millions of Dead Cops.
I remember getting intimidated and busted at age 13 by the police. I remember my friend Tate Bryan shot in the back in Tampa, Florida for his first offense burglary. I remember the police firing into crowds and killing children because they were the wrong color. I remember the narcs in my high school trying to set me up for a big fall. I remember the police bringing dogs into our school and sniffing away my rights. The police is the Klan, is the mafia, and they're all in the police state, and they're out for me, and soon they're gonna be out to get you. So you better get going if you know it's good for you, and take your stand. I remember when I first went to school and said, don't be a joker, don't be a fool, pledge your allegiance to the red, white, and blue. Thursday comes in another for you to say a buffalo soldier, only have one, watch him die in the heat of the sun, take out the bullet, policeman's gun, nothing I can do to get away. In the USA, you gotta take a chance, plan on staying free. The state is the land of living, they're trying to make a dead man out of me. I remember when I first hit the road, running from the lady for the money I owed. Came to her and knocked my door, crossed the board, now I'm running some more. Something to get me ain't happened yet, burning my fingers, last cigarette. Time to remember, it's time to forget, stuff I can do to get away.
Right?
Wow.
This picture just encapsulates that like early to mid 80s punk rock attitude, right? I mean, it's got all sorts of offensive things going on. It's got a great name. This band is just screamy punk, loud, noisy, sloppy, everything about it, right? You know, when they mix the KKK and Police, and they got, you know, Corporate Death Burger is on here. John Wayne was a Nazi.
Yeah.
Dick for Brains. You know, Church and State is a really known song of theirs. But I mean, Kurt Cobain used to talk about this album all the time. But, you know, the PMRC sure did not like it when they put this out. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, probably
and that's
not.
why this became this, right? So anyway, I had to throw this band in just because I was fortunate enough to see them very late in their career, as in a few years ago. And they just had that attitude as strong as ever.
In some ways, my number 2 is the opposite of that, which is an album that I have loved. It's my second favorite punk album because it's a little deeper in both its music, its production, its lyrics, and things like that. It's Peg Boy, Strong Reaction, which is an absolutely incredible, sort of, I guess you could say, harder but still melodic punk album. That it was a band from Chicago. And this is the only album that sounds like this. Their follow-up had a very different kind of sound to it, and honestly, it never really quite worked for me. But Strong Reaction is an album that, from the moment I heard it, it has been basically, other than my number 1 here, my favorite punk album of all time.
Left all alone to bare your soul, and the feeling in your heart is low. And I've heard so many times
when we were mentioning Bad Religion earlier, Pegboy just released that album and opened for Bad Religion at that show. And that's where I discovered Strong Reaction. I paid like $5 for that CD back then. And I've held on to it almost ever since because I love that album. I would put that in probably my top 20 of all time for punk.
Maybe. Oh, for punk, for sure. Well, for me, number 2. But also, yeah, it was that CD because, right, I had burned I ripped a copy to my cassette deck, and it basically stayed in my Walkman for maybe a year and a half. And then about a year ago, when I visited Indianapolis with you, Drac, I found this copy just sitting in the racks at Indie CD and Vinyl and was like, are you freaking kidding me? A sealed copy of Pegboy's Strong Reaction. So,
that's awesome.
There you go. My number 2.
I'll have to check them out because, like I said, I am not familiar with them at all. So
there's nothing wrong with modern Pegboy. Their albums are all good independently, but that one album has a really unique sound to it that none of the other albums have.
Okay. My number 2 was almost my number 1, but I did a shootout between 2 different things, and number 1 just edged it out a little bit. Not taking anything away from this album, though. It's Rancid and Out Come the Wolves.
She will never understand. Once again, he's leaving, and she's there with tear in her eye. Embraces with a warm gesture. It's time to say goodbye. Destination now. Ruby, 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 Soho. Destination now. Ruby, 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 Soho.
Tim Armstrong is just amazing. He's an amazing vocalist. He's an amazing guitar player. He's just an awesome guy. Every interview I've ever seen with him, he just seems just amazing. This has like Maxwell's Murder, Time Bomb, Ruby Soho, that's the song that I think most people know. Even if people are going to say, I don't know who Rancid is, I guarantee you they probably heard Ruby Soho, especially if you're a wrestling fan.
I didn't think that came through there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that song's an earworm too. That a lot of people probably know that, even though they don't know they know that.
Yeah.
They're a big. They got pretty big though, didn't they? I always thought Rancid was quite a big band. Yeah.
Well, there was some weird ties with Operation Ivy in Rancid, right? Wasn't there like some members?
I think they like exchanged members, or like some people left to go with them and then came back or something. I forgot the whole thing, but yeah.
I don't know about concert history, but I got to see them at Palmer's Bar, which the stage is about the size of your computer desk, and I'm not kidding. You can't get 3 people on there in the drum set. So,
wow.
And they're like 50, max capacity is like 50 people in there, and they just randomly played there one day, and so we went down and saw them play, and they absolutely shredded the place. It was great. Rancid is amazing. My number 2, I'm going a little bit out on a limb on this. I would debate this might not be punk rock, but I had to throw it in just because of its rarity and coolness. And this would be my Melvins and Napalm Death compilation, where the 2 bands got together and recorded 5 songs together and then put this out. So this album is the 2 bands playing together, right? And it's a Savage Imperial Death March. The cover of this thing is screen printed on like this cardboard is like grocery bag cardboard, right?
Yeah.
And this thing's just screen printed all the way around. I got to see Napalm Death, and I went and bought this direct from the band. And this is a fairly rare copy. They only put a handful of them out. This particular one that I got is like the red and orange with the black splatter version. I think they call it All's. Let me look it up here real quick. I think it's called the All's Quiet on the Orange Front variant. But it generally goes for about 150 to 300 bucks on Discogs. So it's a fairly pricey record because of its general. Oh, they're also hand stamped with the amount. This one was copy number 59.
Oh, wow.
So
Wow.
they hand
Hot dang.
stamped it.
That is a heck of a record for sure.
Yeah.
I know. It's just got it's got some punk imagery, I mean, it's just great looks, great stuff. The first song, the album starts off by just one of the best song titles ever, Tossing Coins into the Fountain of Fuck. Right? Just a great song title, right?
That's amazing.
And it's a really unique. You could say it's punk. It's a little bit more on that like noise edge kind of speed metal, kind of death metal kind of thing. But then you've got Melvins thrown in there to sludge the whole thing up, right?
Yeah.
And so it's really a unique sound having the two bands combined and do a recording session together. So I highly recommend giving that a listen if you ever can find it.
Well, my number one is about as common a record as it gets, but also changed my life. You could find it for years at Hot Topic. I don't know if there are still Hot Topics, but I bet if there are, you can get a copy of Misfits Collection 1 there. Nonetheless, it is easily, without question, my number one punk album of all time. I think this album basically changed my life.
They call us walking corpses, unholy living dead. They had to lock us up, put us in their British hell. Make sure your face is clean now, can't have no dirty dead. All the cops here are clean for all the Yanks in British hell. I don't wanna be here in your London dungeon. I don't wanna be here in your British hell. Ain't no mystery why I'm in misery hell.
Because once I heard this, I was like, this exists? Well, I better start looking more into this kind of thing then. And for me, Misfits has always been my favorite punk band. They were the first punk band I ever heard. They were the best punk band I ever heard. And although they've got lots of great kind of EPs and Walk Among Us, their one full-length studio album, and a few compilations later, this is the one to get. Because this is the one that's got basically, in my opinion, among the best versions of the songs. Although there are a few hits and misses here. But all hits on this, they all sound great too. Yeah. And it's got basically the full breadth of what you could get with the Misfits from the early days to their more hardcore stuff in later period.
Oh, the Misfits. I mean, they absolutely define punk rock to some extent, right? I mean, the imagery is still, selling 1 million albums today for Hot Topic, and you name it. Kids these days are still wearing their shirts, Yep. One could go into all the controversy about what's gone down with Misfits. I'm obviously a huge Misfits fan. I'm in a gothic punk band that started as a Misfits cover band, and we currently still do a bunch of Misfits covers during our live sets. I'm going to give a real controversial hot take that one of my favorite Misfits albums is Famous Monsters without Glenn singing. And that's a tough one to say because I absolutely love Misfits, but there's something about Famous Monsters that I find really unique and awesome.
I was going to ask Danzig Misfits or non-Danzig Misfits. That's the question.
Yeah.
I'm going to cheat here, okay? And I'm going to segue your love of the Misfits and putting it as number one as an album that I couldn't make the cut, but I had to show on your podcast. This is a rather known bootleg that comes out of the UK of the Misfits. right? This is from they played live at Al's Bar in Los Angeles in 1982. Now, this thing absolutely sounds like crap. It's just a terrible sounding record, but it's pretty cool. And this is why I had to throw it on there, because I know you know what
Oh,
this
yes.
is.
Yeah.
Oh, that is amazing.
Right?
Oh,
And
I kind of
so,
want
you know,
cover.
that's pretty much why I bought it. I knew the album wasn't going to sound great, but to get an old school Dungeons and Dragons lick in with the Misfits is kind of hard to pass up at a record store, right?
Oh, that's
And
amazing,
this is, of course, an unofficial record. It's an unofficial, unreleased. You know, it is not part of the Misfits lineup, and Glenn Danzig would probably want to punch me for showing it on the internet, but you know. It is out there. You can find it. It's out. It does exist on Discogs, so you know it's out there.
Nice.
My number one, it's The Offspring and Smash.
I wrote her off for the 10th time today. Practiced all the things I would say. She came over, I lost my nerve. I took her back and made her dessert. I know I'm being used. It's okay, man, 'cause I like the abuse. I know she's playing with me. That's okay, 'cause I got no self-esteem. Oh, hey,
I was still in radio when this came out, and I remember the record company sent me this CD like it was like 3 weeks before it was coming out in stores, and I listened to it on the way home, and I was like, "This is amazing." This has big songs, "Bad Habit," "Got to Get Away," "Come Out and Play," "Keep Them Separated," "Self-Esteem," probably is the ones that people would know. I almost went with the Americana album by Offspring, which is a really good album too, but I listened to the two back to back, and this one I think I think it's more nostalgia for this, just because I remember when I first listened to it, I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. It's very punky, but yet it's very poppy. And when I started playing it on the radio, it like people just called in and said, "Who is this band? Who is this? This is like amazing." And I'm like, "Yeah, they're this new band. Well, this is technically their second album. They had an album before this. It was on a independent label, but yeah, which that's a very good album
huge
too.
album,
I almost,
right? And
yeah.
we talked,
Yeah.
you know, we started the show with DOA about as a kind of, you know, small time as it got, even back in the day, although they got big. But Offspring was huge. They were an arena band, you know?
Oh yeah,
They were still
interesting
punk.
on
They were
that.
still punk.
Yeah.
It would be,
Oh, yeah.
some people probably would grumble a little bit, but I bet not. They're totally a punk band.
Well, there was certainly, back when they first came out, that was kind of where a different wave of punk was starting to happen, right?
Yep.
It wasn't so much, you know, the jocks wanted to punch you for being punk world anymore. It was like the jocks were starting to like punk too, right? And you had
Right.
Green Days and NoFX's and Offsprings, and everybody's starting to pop up and come out. And Offspring was always a tough one because, like, you know, they were somewhat on the rock edge, somewhat on the punk edge, but they
Right.
toured with the punk bands. They played at the punk shows. I am almost confident that they did play at Marty's Pizza in Mankato when we were in high school. So, you know, Offspring followed that scene. They were in there, and then the world came to them, and they got big, right? Like the famous line that, you know, the singer of NoFX says about Green Day. It's not that Green Day sold out, it's that the world embraced that style. Right.
Right. Yeah. And that's the was their major label debut, and like that's when they blew, like, you know, like you said, they just blew up. They were everywhere. Like,
Yeah.
keep them separated was everywhere.
It was a
like,
huge
and
song.
that video was, yeah, and that video was on MTV like constantly. That song was on the radio constantly. Like, I guarantee you turn the radio on, and within 10 or 15 minutes, you were gonna hear "Keep Them Separated." I can almost guarantee you.
If there was like a late night TV record set advertisement of the 90s music still around today, Keep It Separated would probably make that list.
Oh, I'm sure. 100% it would.
Oh, absolutely. You know, funny story. My son just had a baseball tournament, and him and most of his teammates dyed their hair blonde. And now every one of them looks like the singer of Offspring from that album. So it was pretty great. I've got some photos of him. And I actually teased him. I'm like, you look like the singer of Offspring. And he goes, who's that? But, you know, he's a kid. He doesn't know who Elvis is either. So. My number one, I'm going to show a rather rare album. My number one is this concept. And punk was the absolute kings of this. This would be the no slow, all go 2-record punk compilation that Profane Existence put out. Punk were the absolute kings of getting about 1 million bands together to each record a song, and some dude from his basement would put out records, right? Because punk carried this records through the CD era, right? Yeah. And it's because people were, for whatever reason, punk and hardcore loved their 7-inches, right? And they loved their, you know, you had 50 bands in a town and none of them had any money, but some dude was able to get them all in a studio and put them on a comp. Right, so
yep.
My number one is punk rock compilations, up to and including this one, because this one's really cool. This one came out from Profane Existence. Profane Existence was a collective that was formed in 1989 in South Minneapolis. They still exist today. They've moved to Huntington, West Virginia. But it was just like a place where punks could go. They sold records and T-shirts and stuff to try to make money. They would put out compilations. If you were wandering through town to town, you could sleep on their floor. It was just what they were. You know, they absolutely, Profane Existence, even to this day, still supports DIY, 100%, anti-establishment, anti-corporation. And check out Profane Existence. Anyway, this is one of their really old comps. This one has bands like Kung Fools, Dirt Poor, Quincy Punks, Murderers, Code 13, Dillinger 4, Misery, Scooby Don't, Bomb Site, Skater Bait, Saltines, Rejects, The Creepers. You know, it's got 1 million random bands you've maybe never heard of, but that's what made punk rock compilations amazing.
Oh yeah, no,
is you
100%.
You'd pick up something like this, and keep in mind this was a 2-record set, right? So I mean, I got 2 records here. This is a four-sided album of just bands you've never heard of, and you'd pick them up for $10, and you would get exposed to dozens of punk bands you would otherwise never get to listen to. right? And that's one of the things I found and why I had to put it as my number one, punk rock compilations. Now, besides that, there's always the famous one, Fat Music for Fat People,
Yeah.
Yep.
put out by No Effects label. And if you don't know them, then you're living under a rock on that one, because those were huge, right? But your hometown probably has some dude putting out a compilation of punk today, right? So it still carries through.
I love this choice. I think it's a perfect encapsulation of what we're
Oh, yeah.
talking about. And after showing the breadth of it all here today, as we wrap things up, I just wanted to call out that our list is a little light on the ladies. And that's just sort of how it worked out with I think all of our top fives, but there have been a lot of incredibly powerful and important female, either some members of the band being ladies or all members of the band being ladies that I just couldn't fit in, like L7 or Babes in Toyland. I mean, you got Wendy Williams, you got a Bikini Kill, you've got even more modern, like I really, for a long time, number 5 on my list was Savages, Adore Life, but ultimately I'm doing I think that's more post-punk than punk ultimately on that one, which is why I didn't pick that. But there's so much, and I just don't think any of us were able to get it into our lists here today. But before we wrap things up, I wanted to call that out.
Scowl, Where Flowers Grow, great female fronted singing on that one. My What's New, Gully Boys, all female.
Oh, okay, great, awesome.
I tried to figure out how I could make Wendy O. Williams work.
Yeah.
And I couldn't, and I'm like, I can't put everything on that I want to. And I'm like, how do I but she needs to be on here just because what she did, but
as a matter of fact,
definitely an honorable mention.
As a matter of fact, I have Patti Smith's Easter, which some people consider to be one of the first punk albums. I personally don't, though, which is why it didn't make my list either.
Yeah,
I can see where they're coming from, but it was such a big album, and it's not at all in the space that I'm coming from mostly when I'm listening to punk. So that one skipped my list, but that could have made it as well.
I thought about L7, but then I'm like, I don't really know if they're punk or not.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe the early stuff. Like I wanted to include some Black Flag, but then I'm like, but which Black Flag do I do? And then it's like, and then again, some of that they started out punk, but then they kind of strayed off the path, and they not really punk anymore. So there's just, like we said at the beginning, these lists are so hard to only do 5. Like you think it's going to be easy until you sit down to start doing it. And then it's like, dang it.
I think it was last year, I saw the Subhumans play in Uptown, and all female band named FEA opened, FEA. Absolutely shredded the place. They were so good. I bought all their records right then and there on the spot. I almost included them, but I couldn't because I had to look at the overall genres a little bit too. But you want female fronted punk, and there is no lack of amazing female fronted punk coming out today, yesterday, and tomorrow, and absolutely amazing stuff.